Hey, everybody, welcome to the Mount Rushmore podcast. I'm Jeff, and I'm joined, as always, by my good pals Richard
Hello.
and Michael.
Howdy.
You know, 'tis the season. You might be at your home watching movies, catching up on shows you might have missed, binging one thing after another on the 1 dozen streaming services that you're paying for now that cable has been unplugged. But you might be watching some entertainment, and you might be noticing plot holes. And that is the topic we're going to talk about this week. I think Richard thought it up.
I did, and I believe I was watching a movie that was on this list recently. In fact, it was one, and it's one that we'll talk about.
Okay.
And I thought, that's a pretty bad plot hole. And that just got me thinking about other movies with plot holes, and you kind of go down a rabbit hole online. So thought it'd be a good topic for us to hit.
Absolutely. We'll request that you post when this is posted on linked on Facebook or Instagram. You post your most glaring plot holes, not potholes, plot holes. You can take photos of potholes too.
Or potholes, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll send it over to the Department of Public Works. And
Yeah, we can.
We're like on your side.
Yeah, don't
Mount
tell us-
Rushmore on your side.
Oh yeah, we're the civil. Well, I forget what do they call those in the news?
The consumer advocate.
Consumer advocate. Yeah, don't post the location. Let us guess. Let us guess where it is. So Richard thought it up. So Michael starts with his first plot hole.
Okay, I'm going to set the record straight. I don't notice anything. Like when I'm watching movies and like it all makes sense to me. Like even if it doesn't make sense, I'm not so keen to be like, I don't know about that. I just accept whatever's in front of me, and it's like, and if someone points it out after the fact, I'm like, okay, well, still, alrighty,
yeah.
But my first one, the Karate Kid.
Okay.
At the end of the Karate Kid, Daniel LaRusso kicks Johnny in the face with the crane kick.
Yeah.
Music swells. Everyone cheers. It's the greatest thing in the world. This kid has overcome a damaged leg, come back from all this adversity. But 10 minutes before and throughout the entire match, the judge at the karate competition is warning people that blows to the face, kicks to the face are illegal. And literally he ends the movie kicking this kid in the face. What did they, if they had never mentioned blows to the face are illegal, this would have been amazing. Because all the other stuff would have made sense, right? Like the sweeping the leg, maybe that's an illegal thing that they do, or doing the big elbow thing, all these little things. But it just happened to be the one thing that this dude does that is the big secret karate move. And then the judge is like, okay, well, you win. I was like, oh, okay, well,
yeah, but the other guy was an asshole, so those rules don't count with him.
I didn't see subsection B of the kick to the face rules. In parentheses, or when they do that little A in the parentheses, and then under the A, there's the little I, and all the little down there. It's is he blonde? Is he a dick?
Please consult your local All Valley Karate Championship rule.
Yeah, it's it's not something that ruins the movie. It's not something that's it's just what? But you just don't. You didn't have to say anything. You literally just. No one is watching the movie going oh well, that's an illegal kick to the face. The other guy's doing it. Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting aspect, because karate is something that I grew up with an awareness on, but the rules therein, that's when a movie kind of creates its own world, its own rules, its own this, own that. And what I love about what you just brought up is that's the plot hole that spurred 3 seasons of a series, essentially. William Zabka, his character saying it was an illegal kick.
Oh, what? I haven't seen Cobra Kai. Is that I love that now.
Johnny, yeah. It's kind of the foundation of it. Here's this guy's life has been destroyed because this cultish, karate school leader or whatever was ordering them to do all these illegal things. Sweeping the leg wasn't illegal, but he was to say he was injured. Probably was illegal that he was allowed to continue. But yeah, that's the kind of the heart of it, is that Johnny Johnny's this one going, "I'm the dick here?" Like, this guy kicks me in the
Oh,
face,
I
like a
love
legal
that.
kick.
I love
Um,
that. That's so
and it's
great.
kind of at the core of, a little bit of Johnny LaRusso, yeah, Johnny LaRusso? Daniel LaRusso's character is that, uh, for whatever the amount of fame, and I know we're off topic here, it's about the plot hole, whatever amount of fame he got for that, ridiculously over-recognized karate match because, who has ever been to a karate match? I don't know. I've
Your
barely been to,
parents.
like, yeah, the
That's it.
parents.
Your parents go to the karate match.
Yeah, it's definitely gone to his head, and he's kind of been dining off that for three decades since,
That's
but
funny.
yeah, that
Look,
is
ever
so
since
funny.
they shut down the cockfighting in the
That's right.
valley,
That's right.
people have to bet on something.
Yes.
So
It's gotta be karate. Okay, well, that's a fun one to come out with, and that does bring up what the heck plot holes are, and I think, there is obviously, a suspended, disbelief that happens in storytelling, and films are no different, and, things don't happen in real time. There are things that, in movies, there are things that we have to kind of take for granted that happened in out off frame or and that they're okay that we didn't see them. But yeah, but sometimes I think when it betrays a certain amount of truth that we expect, that's when it leaves you going, something's missing here. They didn't address that. Like we're not the people who watch the Roadrunner and Coyote and say, man, he could never survive that fall,
right.
because you're not having any fun anymore. So that does make me question what the heck is a plot hole exactly. It's just something. It's a bridge too far. It's something that was missing that we just can't kind of live without. So
Well, to bridge to my first topic,
awesome.
um, I think there are plot holes that are continuity errors where something was brought like this the Karate Kid one. That's a continuity error.
Hmm.
Mm.
Somebody brought you created a rule and then you broke your own rule, or you've established something in the movie and then later on something happens that goes against that.
Hmm.
Then I think there are plot holes that just up in the entire fabric of a movie itself,
Yeah.
where it's like those are the ones that for me are the ones that can take you out of the movie a little bit.
Mm.
Hmm.
And this first one is the one that originally got me thinking about this topic. Is when we went to the Hollywood Bowl to go see Back to the Future.
Oh.
Yeah.
And time travel movies are just perennially rife with potential plot holes. It's just so many balls in the air that you have to juggle, I think, to try and keep everything straight. But there's a bigger fundamental issue that I have with Back to the Future. And that is, how do Marty's parents not recognize him when he gets to be 16, 17 years old? And he looks exactly like that stranger who came into town for a couple of weeks and set them up, and that she was in love with, and that became
Hmm.
George's temporary best friend, and and played Johnny Be Good at the Enchantment Under the Sea prom.
Hmm.
How do they not look at him and go, that looks a lot like Calvin Klein? I
Hmm.
mean, a lot like Calvin Klein.
Hmm.
Just seems odd to me.
Is this in the sequel?
No,
Sorry.
this isn't the first one.
Okay.
Just the whole concept of he goes back in time as Marty, 17 years old, however old he's
Hmm.
supposed
Hmm.
to be,
Hmm.
and interacts with his parents. And then, 30, however many years later, his parents don't look at that kid and go, that looks exactly like our friend Calvin Klein.
Hmm.
Not just a little bit, but
Yeah.
identical, and sounds like him and is the same height as him.
Yeah.
What's the deal?
How long? Here's a question. How long was he back in 1955? A week?
Yeah, but he did a lot of stuff in that week.
It's a lot of impact. That's true. I would say this: teenagers are just wild narcissists. I would say that this kid was out of their lives as fast as he was in their lives. They were going off and probably getting married at 18 or whatever it
Hmm.
was, and this kid was he's just gone. And maybe
Yeah.
Doc Brown did enough to remove his presence as well for the rest. Maybe any picture that was taken he hunted down.
True.
Maybe he it referred to him by a different name because obviously Doc Brown was around doing weird stuff too, and he would have to realize that he's got to repair the continuum.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
In
yeah,
my fan fiction.
I think what's creepier, and what's funny is this is on my uh, Back to the Future 3 is on my list, one of my
Okay.
Okay.
choices, and it's on my choice because in Back to the Future 3, um, well, let me finish my first point, then get to my pick. Um, his Marty McFly's like grandparents look exactly like him, or great grandparents, or
Mhm.
whatever. There must have been like there's a family resemblance that obviously
Oh.
they're going for that like just gets passed down from generation to generation within these
Mhm.
McFlys. So the fact that he probably looks like some sort of other family member from long before too. You think that I think that speaks to Richard's point. Like, how is this person not recognized in some way? Because they all look the same.
Yeah. There was a conceit in, what I wanna say is in my fan fiction, the Avengers
Mm,
and Men in Black have visited the same city in the intervening time. So they might be just thinking, "Great, another time traveler." And they
yeah.
were just, like, had already forgotten about Calvin Klein since then. Um, I think what was it Summersby, I guess it's not a plot twist, but maybe it's a kind of a difference in eras in which there wasn't photography, there wasn't, like, I think the central conceit of Summersby is that a character leaves to go fight in the Civil War, and then 4 years later, he comes back, and it's not him, actually, it's somebody who had a slight visual similarity to them. It's Richard Gere who's who it is.
Right.
Um, but it was before photography, so it was before,
Yeah.
nobody had a thing in their hand that showed exactly what this person looked. No, I guess it wasn't before photography because there is
Well,
Civil
it's
War
at the very beginning of
the
photography.
advent.
It's
Yeah.
supposed to be the Civil War, right?
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe they just didn't even know they didn't have a common, like a record or an archive. No, it ain't worth.
Yeah, and also, but also,
Yeah.
like, if you're like poor, you're not getting pictures taken of you.
Yeah. That's true.
So my choice for Back to the Future 3 is so he has to travel back in time to the who's it? The Old West, the 1850s
Yeah.
or whatever, right?
Yeah.
1880s, something like that, 1870s. I have no idea. And Doc Brown buries this DeLorean that he went back in time with in this old mine shaft for Marty to find
Hmm.
one day, right? So he
Hmm.
can go back in time to save him. Well, he goes, does he even send him back or does he just send it to be destroyed? I don't know. He should have just destroyed this thing if he didn't want it to be found again.
Yeah.
So Marty finds this DeLorean, goes back to in time, and then like the fuel line breaks. Now here's the thing. There's currently and then they can't figure out how to like uh fix it, right? So they have to build this ridiculous steam engine and they have to push it along these railroad tracks and yada yada yada. But when they're back in time, there should be two DeLoreans at the same time there that they
Hmm.
could have salvaged parts from. They could have just gotten that other one and saved Doc Brown. You
Hmm.
didn't have to go through all this mishigas of
Hmm.
all this stuff. There's two DeLoreans back there.
Hmm.
But then, you know what? When I was watching the movie, I didn't think about this once. This is just something that I read afterwards that
Yeah.
started to be like, okay, yeah, well, that wouldn't be a fun movie, would it?
No. Yeah.
I just go back in time and immediately solve the issue. And then
Hmm.
here we go. All right. Back to the Future 4. Uh,
You've created a 20-minute long movie, Michael.
yeah, yes.
I think sometimes the plot hole is the conceit of the entire
Mm,
story. Like, Gilligan's Island. You got
yes.
a guy can make coconuts into a radio,
Yes.
and they can't fix a hole on a boat. And this
And the fact they're
thing,
only 3 hours off of the mainland.
3 hours off Catalina or whatever. So funny. Okay, what's your second then? Because we got Michael's.
I had my
Uh,
first. I had two. Richard
you had
gets.
two. Yeah, I love that
Yeah.
we're tackling these big franchises too. Because you'd think with all these, well, we know of another venerable, long-running, multifaceted franchise in which they're fixing all these plot holes the Star Wars saga and
Oh,
whatnot.
Star Wars, do
Yep.
you say?
Ooh.
Oh,
Mm-mm.
oh, you happen to mention Star
Ah.
Wars. Well, let's talk about Episode 3. And let's talk about the
Okay.
plot point that Obi-Wan has decided to protect Luke and has made this his main mission in life. So what does he do? Well, obviously he changes Luke's name, right?
Yeah.
Wrong.
Wrong.
Obviously he takes him to a planet far, far away and that Darth Vader would never think to look at and has no
No.
connection. Wrong. No, he just changes his first name to Ben, but keeps the Kenobi.
Yeah.
Okay. Keeps Luke Skywalker last name, and then takes him back to Darth Vader's home planet. This is a collection of bad ideas.
And takes him back to his family to live in the same place that Anakin pretty
Yeah.
knows pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it took that long for Darth Vader to meet Luke Skywalker says as much about Darth Vader's incompetence as it does about Obi-Wan's.
Hmm.
I don't know what these are the most powerful Jedi's on the
Yeah.
planet,
Yeah.
and they couldn't figure this out.
That is funny because, like, in the latest 3 series, you know, the Kylo and Rey relationship is actually they're kind of being facilitated through Snoke, right? He's created this kind of psychic bond between them
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. Like, I wonder, now I'm just kind of addressing that plot point, would a Star Wars fan say that Palpatine had put up a barrier or something between all him and Vader and his kids or something
Mm.
like that?
Well,
Maybe.
yeah. So far, as much as we know, Palpatine doesn't know. The Emperor doesn't know that the kids were still alive because he'd try to get them to his side. He was trying to replace Darth Vader, as far as we know, since the guy that he went to get a new car. He had the shiny new car in Anakin Skywalker, and then he came home and it was like, by the time he drove it off the lot, this thing was dented and beat up and
Yeah.
got hit by a car, and it was like, what are you gonna do? Let's put a suit of armor on it. I guess that's.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of those things where, like, it's George Lucas is a very interesting fellow who has constantly kind of changed and
Hmm.
went around and updated his version of history on how these things were all created. So, like, I don't think he ever expected those sorts of questions to be
Yeah.
asked, especially with, um, you know, uh, Luke and Leia weren't, like, known to be brother and sister until they decided it
Yeah.
into, like, making Empire Strikes Back, or he didn't decide Darth Vader was his father until much late. All these things, like, came apart after the fact. But yeah, I mean, really strange to not.
Yeah.
How many Skywalkers are out there? Maybe it's just that maybe Skywalker and Kenobi is just the most common last name
Right.
in the galaxy.
It's the Smith and Jones.
So maybe they're just like, Luke Skywalker is like, yeah, I'm here at Tashi Station. I'm Luke Skywalker. Oh yeah, over there. There's Todd Skywalker's over there. He's picking some
Hmm.
stuff up. There's Jimmy Skywalker. Who's that guy? That's Ben Kenobi. Who's that guy? That's a Todd
Yeah, I
Kenobi.
understand that Jimmy Skywalker is dynamite.
Jimmy JJ Skywalker.
Yeah.
Do you think that plot holes are a kind of a occupational hazard of big kind of genre storytelling, where we're playing fast and loose? We're hopping from one galaxy to another with uh this kind of broad strokes. It almost feels like, and I almost feel like, even with George Lucas, the only crime he really committed was making a timelessly enduring set of films that would be
That
scrutinized over and
bastard.
over again.
Yeah.
Jack Frost. When we were talking about that movie, I don't think we were talking about plot holes. Wait, or were we? I forget if we were talking about plot holes. But yeah, it's kind of like a painting. The Mona Lisa, it hangs on the wall. Can it stand up to centuries of scrutiny? I don't know. We want to talk about this big gaping plot hole in the Mount Rushmore podcast, and that is the audience. We're we're trying to reach so many more people, and we need your help. Could you share the Mount Rushmore podcast with all your friends and family? And then, hey, if you got a fun topic suggestion, let us know. We'd love to find out your ideas for the topics that we can pursue in 2023.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Moly.
Did we have one this year?
No.
No.
Wow,
No,
shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Pull your weight.
Pull your-
I know you're out there. We're a little sick of doing all the work ourselves.
Yeah.
Audience. Yeah, come on.
more
Okay,
work
so
for
I
us.
guess that's now 3. Now to Michael's third. Is that what
Yep.
it is?
Michael's third.
Okay.
Okay. My third one is Toy Story, and the way that Buzz Lightyear reacts to humans coming into the room, the same way that all toys react, by freezing. Yet the entire conceit of his character arc is not knowing he's a toy.
Yeah.
And you spend this entire movie, he's played with by
Mhm.
Andy, and all these, humans are around, and every time a human's around, he freezes like he's a toy, because he is a toy. But then he goes right back to being like, oh yeah, I'm not a toy. So does he just get like blackout drunk in those stages? Is he just like browning out and just has does he go into like a fugue state? Does he not know what's happening in those moments? Does his like brain shut off?
Yeah.
Not that he has a brain, but does whatever magical toy
Yeah.
stuff. I understand that it's a kid's movie, and that's part of the fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things that I didn't even think about until starting to think about it. Like I wasn't even ever concerned that, oh yeah, the toys they just stop. Their natural toy inclination is to, I don't know, maybe if there was a giant that came around, my inclination would just be to freeze.
Mm-hmm.
And stop moving. If they came and picked me up and flew me around the room, I'd be like, oh, okay.
I have the same question about the Hulk. Like, what does he do? Like, what does he know from thing to thing? What were you going to say, Richard?
Oh, I was just going to say, I do think that it is something like a subconscious in the back of his head. He knows he's a toy.
Yeah.
But so there's something about being a toy that it's almost like an override.
Yeah.
That sort of like kicks in no matter what you think you're consciously what you think you are. There's something about being a toy that makes you, it's like a forced thing. It's not something that he's doing necessarily. It's just something that's happening to him.
Mm-hmm.
So it is kind of like a blackout state in a sense.
Yeah. A protective trauma or response to trauma or
yes. Okay.
That makes sense.
Well, they should have had this entire scene where they explain it in the movie, where they slowed everything down for maybe a good 3 minutes. where they just go over the details, the rules of, okay, this is what can happen and this is what can't happen. And as you see right here, I'm going to pull up this diagram. Go like, the person comes in the room, you automatically are thing. But you have a choice to be conscious again. And then you also, but not these toys.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing about, these plot holes or these things that aren't explained. It's an entertainment. It's a movie. You're watching something to see Tom Hanks and Tim Allen. You don't need everything laid out, and if it doesn't line up perfectly, hey, that's okay. But man, are there people that love to just not be okay with anything?
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you guys this, because this is where it gets to my next choice here. I think there's a difference in the nature of plot holes, and maybe I was alluding to this earlier with my first choice, where there are plot holes that are annoying, and then there are plot holes that make you question everything you'd seen in the movie up to that point. There are things like I would argue that the one that you just mentioned with Toy Story. Yeah, it's moderately annoying, but it doesn't ruin the whole point of the movie necessarily. Especially if you have a movie that is built on a major reveal plot twist.
Yeah.
And said plot twist is so dumb and poorly conceived that you just go, "Oh, really?" And nobody is the king of that more than M. Night Shyamalan.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And so I am going with the movie Signs.
Okay.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
Because if you're an alien and the one thing that can kill you is water, and you're researching a planet to take over,
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
and you look at Earth, and you see that sucker is 71% water
Yeah.
and has an atmosphere with frequent water and
Yeah.
everything else, and a life forces or life creatures that need water to exist.
Mhm.
I'm staying the fuck as far away from that planet as
Yeah.
possible. There have to be hundreds of inhabitable planets that you can take over
Or
that have no water on them whatsoever.
show up in a raincoat, an alien raincoat.
Yeah, simple enough.
Yeah.
They don't they have LL Beans in space,
Yeah. Yeah.
you would think?
LL Beans.
I also like could have landed anywhere on Earth, right?
Mm.
Like, how about a desert?
Right.
Yeah.
How about these places that like are famous for not having water?
Mhm.
No, I'm gonna go to I don't know, Poison Town, USA, where all
Right.
they should have been attacking people on boats.
Waterville,
Yeah.
literally.
Well, Shyamalan, I think, is the expert at hiding the obvious thing. Like, take the
Mm,
obvious thing and hide it. The thing that you makes you face palm at the end, or he was in the first couple movies. But
yeah.
yeah, I gotta say though, like the storytelling, that was one movie that I remember just being scared as fuck.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the frustrating part about Signs,
Yeah,
is that it's a really good movie
yeah,
up until that reveal. And then you put 2 seconds of thought into it and you go, "Wait a second. What
yeah,
was I just why did I just watch this if the whole raison d'être
Oh,
yeah.
of the movie is to get you to this big plot twist at the end or the big reveal at the end. And the reveal is so backwards and asinine.
Hmm.
It just makes you feel like that you got cheated out of watching you got cheated out of being able to watch a really good movie because the ending was so bad.
Hmm.
yeah.
What's interesting too, maybe this doesn't support the ridiculousness of this, but it seems even more ridiculous to me that Mel Gibson's character is having a crisis of faith, questioning. I think he's a minister or something who's questioning the meaning of life. Why does all this bad stuff happen? Is maybe it's whatever, but his faith is being challenged, and there's a series of actions that end up, I think, making him believe everything happens for a reason. And his daughter, who always wants a glass of water but never drinks it, or there's a couple of different things. Is his brother's a baseball player? There's a bunch of like things that end up helping them defeat the alien person.
She has asthma to the daughter
She
and
has
can't
asthma. Yeah,
so she can't
yeah,
be exposed to their toxic farts or
yes,
whatever it is.
yeah. Toxic farts. So I think he sees that as, oh, God works in mysterious ways, but all of it was justified. But God also sends is this the same God that sends stupid aliens to a water planet? Like does that just seems stupid to me?
Right.
Yeah. Michael, what's your final?
Well, I'm also going to stick with creatures and water and all the
Wow.
ridiculous rules built into them. The rules behind the Gremlins in the Gremlins movie,
Oh, okay,
Wow.
okay.
which again, it's funny. I didn't connect the two until you started talking about how ridiculous it is that these creatures can't get wet when they touch any sort of liquid. They multiply. The entire planet is just
Yeah,
moisture. Does moisture does that not affect them when they're outside and
yeah,
walking around?
Maybe
Is
they get
only
just a mild rash,
yeah.
you know?
um okay, the sunlight and the light one, fine. Sunlight, that old vampire trope. That's
Hmm.
great. Love it.
Hmm.
But then the not eating after midnight is just so arbitrary. It's
Hmm.
so nonsensical. It is just so ridiculous. I mean, I understand they're written in because it's also a fantasy movie, and you gotta make these things really difficult to care for and have all these different triggers that doesn't
Right.
just turn them um, you know, uh, from multiplying but then transforming into these hideous green things. But just like the whole arbitrariness of after midnight as a, like, it could have been when the sun goes down. They can't eat when, whatever it is. But
Right.
no, it had to be midnight. And then that's like, okay. So that, the gremlins monkey with the clocks and he doesn't know what time it is.
If it was
Eh,
keep them away from Tang instant breakfast drink,
Yeah.
then it's something that's in their world, but they could have they can avoid. But if it's keep it away from water, then it's just a convenient plot device.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what about daylight savings time?
Yeah. Are they?
Or
Oh yeah.
do
What's funny?
Gremlins follow that or not? I'm not sure.
One of the best movie sequels that has ever come about is the movie Gremlins 2, which is just this Looney Tunes style,
Yeah.
like they take that one scene from the first Gremlins movie where they're in the bar and they're kind of like they've multiplied and they're have all these different characters and they're just okay, let's do an entire movie that is that scene. It's so great. Joe Dante, I think, is the director, and they even have a conversation that kind of mirrors this. Like they're Billy is explaining to the people in like the Clamp Tower about the rules, and they're going like, "Yeah, but what happens if they eat something and something gets stuck in your teeth?
Mhm.
Technically, you didn't eat anything, and it just falls in." And they're just like, they're picking apart this thing while and 2 seconds later the gremlins attack. But yeah, just I guess I've had a habit of choosing a bunch of things that are um, like not necessarily things that ruin a movie, but just like make you
Mhm.
say, okay, well, all right.
Versus me, I think my choices are the bigger ones that make you question the whole
Yes.
fabric of the movie itself.
Mm.
And that's also true of my last pick,
Good
which
segue.
is
Good segue.
Raiders. I'm a pro here.
Yeah.
Podcasting pro. How many years we've been doing this now?
Somebody's got to be.
Learned a couple of tricks.
Yeah.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
The entire movie is a plot hole.
Mm.
Because if Indy knows that opening the Ark leads to everyone's face getting melted off,
Mhm.
why are we so concerned about the Nazis getting said Ark? Wouldn't we want them to have the Ark? Please have this Ark as a gift. Make sure Hitler's there while you open it.
Well,
He'll
he
want to
doesn't.
see
Uh-huh.
this.
Does he know exactly what's going to happen,
Well, he
or
knows
does he
it's
kind of?
bad. He knows
Does he
it's
know?
bad because he
Does he know
tells
they know?
Marion to look, make sure to look away.
Yeah.
So obviously he knows that there's some bad, something bad that you shouldn't be looking at is in there. It's never established how he knows this or what
Mhm.
exactly how much he knows of it, but
Mhm.
he knows something, which would have been nice for him to tell Marion at some point before they get kidnapped.
Yeah.
But it just sort of makes me question the whole, why are we so concerned about this arc in the first place if we know that the Nazis really can't use it because the second they open it up, they're all going to turn into wax figurines that
Mhm.
got too close to a candle.
Hmm. I guess I would wonder if he thinks A, do they know that, and or B, is it something that we learn to weaponize, like the first person who just kind of set match to gunpowder? What does this do? He probably blew up,
True.
but there might be somebody kind of on his block who was able to observe and say, "Well, don't do what Larry did, and let's find a way to direct this power." I hear what you mean. Like, I guess I would say Indy doesn't know that they don't know that.
True. That's
Maybe.
that's very possible.
Okay.
But just
Okay. Maybe.
the whole thing is we go through the whole movie and Indy eventually essentially fails at his job.
Yeah.
But it's okay because here comes here comes the red herring or whatever you want to call
Yeah.
it. The
Mm.
the well, what's that called when it's just sort of an act of God?
Oh,
It's sort
Deus
of
Ex
the
Machina kind of. Yeah.
Deus Ex Machina. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, this here comes the Deus Ex Machina
Hmm.
to save everybody at the last minute, and maybe that's more of that than a plot hole. But I just
Hmm.
the whole thing has always bothered me.
Yeah. I think that's the kind of the pop culture commentary I've read is that Indiana Jones is a hero and he's very active, but he has no impact whatsoever on the plot of this movie because everything would have happened Everything that happens would have happened whether he was there
Yeah.
or not. From the idol to the ark, all those things. There's somebody taking it out of his hands and doing it anyway.
I think Indy's heroism in the movie, or his motivation too, becomes trying to save Marion, or I think when he's
Mhm.
first, when he's first approached by the government, he's like, why are you coming after me? Abner Ravenwood's the person,
Yeah.
and I think they tell him that he was like killed
Mhm.
or whatever. So like I think he's motivated, yes, to stop the Nazis, but also
Mhm.
I think because of his personal relationship with Marion and her father, and like trying to um, do whatever.
Isn't it weird that we picked all movies with Harrison Ford in them because he was a which gremlin was he?
He
Was
was
he
the
the spider?
smoking gremlin. No, he
Smoking
was
Yeah.
he was the one that opens his. He was the flashing gremlin. Yeah.
I thought he was the barfly one, but
the
I could be
barfly one?
wrong.
I think he was in the same gang with Flea in Back to the Future,
That's
Yes.
right. He also
intimidating local nerds.
he was also the the alien that is killed in the basement of in Signs.
Also played Rexy in Toy Story. Many people
Yeah.
think it's Wallace Shawn, but it's actually Harrison Ford doing a Wallace Shawn voice. Very
and
convincing.
and you couldn't get away with it at the time, but Harrison Ford playing Mr. Miyagi was interesting casting.
Absolutely,
We wouldn't
yeah,
do it again now, but
yeah.
hey, he's a big name, big name.
Okay, well, hey, we did it. I know I kind of wimped out last time by not picking any things, but I'll just pick. Let's just do back. Jeez, I told my wife. Sorry.
Yeah, restart that.
Yeah.
Um, so I know I kind of wimped out by not picking anything last week and giving you both four, but that's not who I am this time around. I'm a
You're
different guy.
changed man.
Yeah, I've changed map. So let's go with the things that had Harrison Ford in it: Raiders, Star Wars, and those are two Richard joints, I think here. And let's go with Back to the Future, because well, I guess we can get so that's three for Richard, and that's one for Michael. Is that what does that mean? Is that what that means? Um,
Did you give 4?
do I need to get four?
Well,
But I'll
I had a Back to the Future
you had a
take
Back to
from
the
number
Future,
3. So if you wanted to,
but Gremlins because it's G2 baby. It's G2. uh God, that's one of the funniest Key and Peele sketches too. Okay, this has been the Mount Rushmore of plot holes. I'm always Jeff.
I'm Richard.
I might.
All right, dudes.
All right.
Thanks.